If you like white hardware, you're gonna love these new fans from Be Quiet. These are the Lightwings White High Speed Edition ARGB fans. I've got two 3-packs, one's 120 millimeters and the other's 140. Let's get these unboxed and take a closer look. So I'm gonna open the 140 millimeter pack first. We have a box on top here labeled ARGB hub. And there's the 3 fans, each packed within their own little box within the main package. And this other box has all your mounting hardware. It's just 4 little packs of screws. I'm just gonna finish getting everything out of here and then we'll talk about it. So this is your paperwork. It's a simple quick start guide to help you get up and running. This is a little 2-way pad for the ARGB hub. And this is the hub. Now keep in mind, this is not a fan controller, it's just strictly a lighting hub. It's got 6 ports for fans, there's 3 on each side. And that little plug there is for the cable that's gonna connect to your motherboard. And it gets power from a single SATA power connection. This is the cable that goes from the hub to an ARGB header on your board. And here's a first look at one of the fans. It's actually really nice. It's heavy too. Not surprising for a Be Quiet product, their stuff tends to be built like really solid. It's got nice curved blades with those signature Be Quiet ridges. There's a couple of markers right there indicating the direction of airflow and blade rotation. Here's a look at the back side where the motor is. Nothing too special back here. This is the continuous ARGB light ring. It's got some thick rubber contact pads on the mounting corners that should help reduce any vibration from transferring to the case. And we got a little Be Quiet branding on there too. Each fan has 3 connectors, 3-pin ARGB for the lighting, 4-pin PWM connector, and an extra ARGB header in case you want to daisy chain some of these fans together. That could be useful if you don't want to use the hub. You could daisy chain a bunch of these fans together and then use a single ARGB header on your motherboard instead of multiple. Here's a quick look at one of the 120s. It's quite a bit smaller, but otherwise the same as the 140 in terms of how it looks. Spec-wise, they are different though. Other than the dimensions, which is obviously different, the 140s max out at 2200 RPM versus 2500 on the 120s. Airflow is quite a bit higher at 71.7 and static pressure is a bit lower at 2.3 millimeters H2O versus 2.6. That said, both those numbers are pretty good and should make these fans a valid option for use on radiators and heat sinks. Setup's really easy even though it might not look that way because of all the wires. First, we can plug in the ARGB cables from each fan into one of the open ports on the hub. Okay, now we can take this little cable and plug the small end into the hub right there. And then the other end of that goes into a free ARGB header on the motherboard. This SATA cable coming from the hub plugs into a SATA connector on the power supply. And to power the fans, you can just plug them each into their own PWM header on the motherboard. This board in my test bench system doesn't have enough open headers, so I'm just gonna use this little 3-way splitter that I had laying around instead. That way I can plug all 3 into one header. Now if we power the system on, we should have all our fans spinning and lighting up. The motherboard I'm using is made by ASUS, so I'm using their Aura Sync software to control the lighting, and everything works perfectly just like it's supposed to. I can click on any of the preset effects or just set a solid color if I want to. The whole light ring idea for fans isn't anything new. There's a lot of these types of fans on the market, but it's still one of the best ways to do RGB or ARGB on a fan in my opinion. It just looks great. And Be Quiet did a great job making sure the LEDs are bright and colorful. There's a little ring on the exhaust side as well, so you do get some lighting back there, but it's nowhere near as big or bright as the one on the intake side. That said, depending on how you set these up and how many you plan to use, these Lightwings fans could be the only source of lighting that you'll need in your build. The only downside for me is all the wires. Each fan has 2 wires and 3 connectors on it because of that little offshoot ARGB header for the daisy chaining. That's a lot, but not really unusual for ARGB stuff. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way that it goes, at least until companies come up with an innovative way to get rid of some of those cables, which would be greatly appreciated on my end. I'm sure you can imagine what it would look like if you put like 6 or more of these in a system. You'd have a lot of extra wires to deal with. It's impressive how stable everything is. I can barely feel any vibration coming from this thing at all, and that's true even if I crank it up to the fastest speed that it can go. So that tells me 2 things. 1, there's good quality bearings in here, and the blades are well balanced, which are really important things when it comes to fans. To test the noise, I'm going to use a single fan, but I'll do one of each size so that you can see how they compare. And I'm gonna measure sound levels from about a foot away, just to give you an idea what these things sound like. This is far from a perfect test. I mean, my studio's got all sorts of stuff going on in it, so it's definitely not a super quiet environment by any means, but I still think this should give you an idea, just in general, what kind of noise you can expect from these. Overall, these Lightwings fans are a winner. They move a lot of air and have the performance to work with radiators or heat sinks. The Lightring isn't a fresh idea, but it's bright, colorful, and looks amazing. Throw a bunch of these into your system and it's gonna look good. So if you like white hardware, these are a nice option. I'm gonna throw all the specs and details for you down in the description along with some purchasing links. Check that stuff out. Give the video a thumbs up and get subscribed on your way out, and we'll see you soon.